This is a story from the book Just Tricking by Andy Griffiths, and it's called Playing Dead, and it's read to you by Miss Keating. Playing Dead. It's 8:15am and I'm still in bed. I should have got up an hour ago, but I didn't. You want to know why? Because I'm dead. Well, not really dead. I'm just pretending I'm dead so I don't have to go to school. If I can convince Mum and Dad that I'm dead, not only will I have pulled off one of the greatest practical jokes of the century, but I'll get off going to school for the rest of the year. Maybe even the rest of my life. I got the idea from my dog. I've been taking Sooty to obedience classes each Sunday morning. We've only been going a few weeks, but already he's learned to sit, beg, and roll over. Yesterday he learned how to play dead, and I thought, if my dog is smart enough to do it, then why not me? All I've got to do is lie here without breathing or blinking. And when I say without blinking, I mean blinking when no one is looking. And when I say without breathing, I don't mean not breathing at all. That would be silly. I mean just taking a tiny little breath every so often. Just enough to keep me alive. The only thing that worries me is I'm such an excellent practical joker, I might trick myself into thinking I'm really dead. And if that happens, I'd be as good as dead, or as bad as dead. Because as far as I can see, there's nothing really good about being dead, except that you don't have to go to school. Suddenly Mum bustles into the room. What? Still in bed? Come on, you'll be late. I hear the rattle of the curtains being opened. The sudden light hurts my eyes, but I remember not to blink. Any moment now, Mum's going to see me and scream. She's standing right next to me. Oh, what a stink. When's the last time you cleaned this room? It's an absolute pigsty. Dirty socks and undies everywhere. Why can't you put them in the washing basket like your sister does? If you're not showered, dressed, and out of this house in 10 minutes, you're going to miss your bus, and I am not going to drive you. She walks out of the room. I stare at the ceiling. What else would a real corpse do? It's not as if it would make some really witty comeback like, lay off me, you old bag. I'm not going to school today because I'm dead. Just leave me alone so I can rot in peace. Yeah, that'd be a good line. But I can't say it because I'm supposed to be dead. So if I just lie here and stare at the ceiling some more. Next thing I know, Dad is standing next to the bed. Andy, he says. I don't answer. Are you all right? Says Dad in a slightly deeper voice. I'm holding my breath. My body is tight. He puts his hand on my shoulder and shakes me roughly. Andy, I'm warning you. If this is another one of your practical jokes, it's not funny. You hear me? Not funny. I tense as hard as I can while Dad shakes me. Then he stops and puts his thumb and forefingers around my wrist. He's trying to find my pulse. Oh, it's the one thing I can't fake. All the same, I try to concentrate on my heart and slow it down. I read somewhere about these people who use the power of the mind to slow down their heartbeat, so I figure I might as well give it a bash. I imagine that my heart is as still as a rock, a red rock, a paralysed red rock, a frozen paralysed red rock, a frozen paralysed red rock in a deep, deep sleep. It seems like forever, but eventually Dad puts my arm back down onto the bed, gently, and he says in a quiet voice, Andy, now listen to me. You're cold and you're not breathing. You're staring at the ceiling and I can't find a pulse. You may be dead for all I know, but then your past record leaves me no choice but to wonder if this is just another one of your so-called jokes. If you are just playing a trick, then I'll give you to the count of 3 to get out of bed and we'll say no more about it. But if you don't get out of bed and I find out later that you're not really dead, well, you'll wish that you had been. Is that clear? He's trying to trick me. He wants me to nod, but I'm not going to fall for it. There's only room for one practical joker around here, and it's not Dad. He starts counting. 1. I'm not sure I believe that I won't get into trouble if I confess. He sounds pretty serious. I'll probably end up being grounded for a week, and I'll definitely end up having to go to school. 2. What have I got to lose? And anyway, I've come too far to chicken out now. 3. I don't move a single muscle. Dad calls Mum into the room. Is everything all right? She asks. I'm afraid I've got some bad news, says Dad. I don't know how or why, but it appears that Andy is no longer living, that he is, to say he's dead. Oh no, she says and starts to cry. Oh no. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Dad move to put his arms around her. While they're distracted, I quickly take a good couple of deep breaths. But he was such a good boy, such a good boy. He had his prop problems, but deep down he didn't mean any harm. No, says Dad. I don't believe he did mean any harm. He just never knew when to stop. Dad's taking the whole thing better than I expected. I mean, he's usually pretty calm and all, but I would have thought maybe he might be a bit more upset. After all, I am his son. Oh, well, he says, no use standing around here all day. There's work to be done. But surely you're not going to work now, says Mum. Well, says Dad, somebody's got to dig a hole. What hole? We can't just leave his body here. Oh, I suppose not, says Mum. Where are you going to dig it? Dad hands her his handkerchief. I think underneath the lemon tree might be nice, and it'll be good for the lemons. Yes, says Mum. It's been struggling a bit lately. I'll go get the spade and start digging. I'd like to have him in the ground before lunchtime, before he starts to smell. Okay, says Mum, wiping her eyes. And while you're doing that, I'll put the kettle on. I think we could both use a good strong cup of tea. I can't believe what I'm hearing. Have my parents completely lost their senses? Are they seriously thinking of burying me in the backyard? Aren't there laws against that sort of thing? Dad leaves the room. Mum kneels down beside the bed and kisses me on the cheek. She passes her hand over my eyelids, just like they do in the movies. I'm so touched I almost forgot to close them, but I remember just in time. I don't care what anyone says. You are a good boy. Mum leaves the room. I don't dare open my eyes again. I wouldn't want her to come back and catch me with them open. That would really freak her out. And I think she's been freaked out enough for one day. Maybe I should confess. But how do I confess without freaking her out even more? After all, she thinks I'm dead. And then I walk into the kitchen. What do I say? Somehow I don't think, hi Mum, I'm not really dead, I was just tricking. Would go down all that well. But if I don't confess, I'm going to be buried in a cold, muddy hole in the own backyard. I'll have worms gnawing at my eyeballs for the rest of eternity. It's a pretty high price to pay for a practical joke, even one as brilliant as this. The lemon tree is right outside my window, and I can hear Dad digging and whistling. Whistling? I die and he whistles. What is he, some kind of psycho? Normal people don't whistle when their son dies. And then again, normal people don't bury bodies in the backyard. But as I listen to Dad's whistle, I begin to notice something strange. It's different from his normal one. It's too loud. It's too cheerful. And now it becomes clear. My parents don't think I'm dead. They just want me to think that they think I'm dead. All this rubbish about being good for the lemons, that's not what it's all about. They're just trying to teach me a lesson. They want to scare me. Well, I don't scare easily, and I'm not about to be beaten at my own game by a couple of amateurs. After a long morning of staring at the ceiling, I'm pretty bored. At last, I hear Dad stop digging. Mum and Dad come into my room. I know what's coming next. I suck my breath in and try to remain absolutely still. Dad grabs me underneath my arms. My mum lifts me up by the legs. I try to make my head flop around in convincing corpse-like fashion. They carry me out to the backyard and lay me down underneath the lemon tree. Dad gets down to the hole, which I can see through my slitted eyes is deeper than I expected. Puts his hand back underneath my arms and pulls me down towards him. My legs follow with a thud. The mud at the bottom of the hole is cold and wet, and almost immediately my pyjamas are soaked through. I'm sure Dad is just dying for me to crack and open my eyes so he can say, just tricking! But I'm not going to give him the pleasure. Not now, not ever. Dad climbs out of the hole. Mum begins reading from a small blue book, her voice low and serious. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Dad is standing to attention, shovel by his side. I'm starting to wonder if this is such a good idea after all. Dad starts filling in the hole. I don't have to wonder anymore, I know. First I feel dirt hitting my toes, then my legs, then my stomach. A big clump lands on my chest and I feel dirt splatter onto my face and mouth. Something's wrong. It's not possible that I'm such a brilliant actor that my parents think I'm really dead, is it? Now that's silly. They'll crack any minute now. Another handful of dirt splashes across my face. And another. And now I don't know what to think because I'm almost completely buried and I'm having trouble breathing. I open my mouth and shout, okay, you win, I was just tricking. But a big clump of earth lands in my mouth and I can't get the words out. It's dark. It's quiet. It's cold. It's boring. How long have I been here? Am I dead? If I am dead, then how come I'm still thinking? I know one thing for sure. If I ever get out of this, and it's beginning to look like there's not much hope of that, I'm never going to play another practical joke for as long as I live. Hang on, I can feel something on my stomach. Urgent jabbing and scratching. The weight of the dirt on my belly is lifting. When the scratching starts on my chest, I realise what it is. Sooty has come to save me. He's the only one who realises I'm not dead. He must be able to smell me, to sense my warmth. And as the weight of the dirt lifts, I decide I don't care about playing dead anymore. Anything would be better than this, even school. I sit up and scream, I confess, you win, I was just tricking. I wipe the mud out of my eyes and see my parents staring down at me. They're shocked. The sight of me rising from the dead has them goggling at me in horror, their mouths frozen open. Mum starts screaming. Dad's trying to ward me off with his spade, holding it crucifix style in front of him, as if I'm some sort of vampire. Dad, it's okay, I reassure him. I was just playing a silly joke and I'm sorry. But I might as well have been speaking in another language. My words don't seem to be having any impact on him whatsoever. He's still brandishing the spade as he and Mum back slowly away from the hole. This joke is completely out of control. The only one who's glad to see me is Sooty. He's standing at the top of the hole trying to lick my face. I push him away, but he keeps coming back for more, like it's a game. At least somebody around here is acting normal. Then all of a sudden, Dad drops the spade and clutches at his chest with his right hand. He drops to his knees, his mouth still wide open, then falls forward onto his face. I leap out of the hole and rush to his side. I roll him over and check to see if he's breathing. Nothing. I place my hands on his chest and push with all my weight, just like they showed us in first aid. I push 3 more times. Then I pinch his nose and pull back his head. I'm about to start mouth-to-mouth resuscitation when Mum screams, Get away from him, you zombie! I'm not a zombie. I'm not dead. I was just tricking. Don't touch him, you blood-sucking freak! Mum, I haven't got time to argue. I've got to do this. It's Dad's only hope. I take a deep breath. Mum starts laughing. Poor Mum. The stress has affected her brain, and it's all my fault. But I can't help her until I've saved Dad. First things first. I take another breath, and I'm about to put my mouth over Dad's when he starts spluttering. First a sputter, then a wheeze, and then a deep, rocking laugh. Dad opens his eyes. They're wet with tears. Would you mind sharing the joke with me, I ask? Sure, says my father, pulling himself together with great effort. We were just tricking. And then they really start to laugh, and laugh, and laugh. They're bent over double like a couple of maniacs. Even Sooty's rolling around his back, wheezing and carrying on. It takes a few moments for the shock to sink in, but then I realise that my parents have won. I've been sucked in, chewed up and spat out. But then, maybe things aren't as bad as they seem. Never mind I'm wet and cold. Never mind that I'm covered in mud. Never mind that I'm the victim of a heartless practical joke that had me thinking I'd killed my father and driven my mother insane. No, never mind all this. At least I got the day off school.